The Sony Spider-Man Universe is over? Is this real life? Amazingly, yes, at least for now. Kraven the Hunter, and we'll talk about some reviews for the movie in this video, but Kraven the Hunter is the last Sony Spider-Man Universe movie, if you can believe that. And to top it all off, Sony isn't just ending their Spider-Man universe for now, but they are actually going to focus more on the MCU. Now, that can be scary for some people, but it's actually a very, very good thing, which we'll break down in this video as we talk about this new report and what comes next for Spider-Man. And not just Spider-Man in the MCU, but the rights to all of the Spider-Man characters that Sony currently owns. This report is coming from The Wrap, and the headline reads, "As Kraven hunts for audience, Sony's Marvel Universe takes final bow for now. Analysis." So let's talk about why Sony all of a sudden has realized or come to terms with the fact that really not a lot of people care about what they're trying to do with their universe. And I think one very specific paragraph in this article sums it up pretty perfectly. It reads, "The apparent end of Sony's Marvel spin-off franchise represents one of Hollywood's most ambitious and costly attempts to build a shared cinematic universe without its central character." Speaking of Spider-Man, obviously. It continues. "While Spider-Man himself swings successfully through Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe thanks to a landmark shared deal struck in 2015 with Marvel Studios, Sony's solo efforts to mine Spidey's rogues gallery have proved to be a costly catastrophe. The studio has burned through more than $465 million in production costs, while audience interest plummeted with each release." And to top it all off, here's what a Sony insider told The Wrap. "The biggest issue with the Sony Spider-Man spin-offs seemed to be the lack of quality control. The movies just aren't good. Sometimes that lack of quality meets a movie no one asked for, which was the case with Madam Web. And that is a no-win scenario. It may be time for Sony to start cultivating different IP to launch new franchises." In which, yes, they totally should, because this is not working for them. And within what we just read, there are a few lines that really describe everything. They attempted to do a shared cinematic universe without its central character, Spider-Man. There's a lack of quality control, which leads to bad movies, and it also leads to movies that nobody asked for, like Madam Web and Morbius. And honestly, even Kraven. I don't think anybody would ask for these movies without Spider-Man in them. And that was obviously their biggest problem. But it looks like Sony finally realizes what the fans are truly feeling. As the article states, "The steady erosion of box office returns from nearly $900 million to less than $500 million for the flagship Venom series alone painted a clear picture for Sony executives. Audiences are simply not having it." So as of right now, the SSU, the Sony Spider-Man Universe, is done. And let us all just hope that they decide not to pick it up again. Kraven did seemingly end their universe, and there are no post-credit scenes, no setting anything else up. It truly does look like they're done. However, they are shifting their focus to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, as they should. And again, some people might be worried about this because obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man is in the MCU. Does this mean that they're going to affect Spider-Man in the MCU? A little bit, but the good news is ultimately Kevin Feige has ultimate say over everything. The other great part about this is that Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal go way back. They get along great. And Amy Pascal really respects Kevin Feige. And Marvel Studios has shown them they can do Spider-Man. They know how to do it. And here's the great part with the Spider-Man movies that we've already gotten, and just Spider-Man in the MCU in general with Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, etc. Marvel Studios has creative rights. They control the creative direction for Spider-Man in the MCU. And even though I I believe it's going to remain this way, I do think a new deal is coming. And I think this new deal is going to be very good. And I don't actually think that this deal is going to affect Spider-Man in the MCU, but instead what I think it's really going to affect is Spider-Man characters, because Sony owns the rights to a lot of Spider-Man characters, to the point to where they have stipulated that Marvel Studios can't use some of these Spider-Man villains in movies that aren't Spider-Man films, so they can't show up anywhere else in the MCU. I think that's about to change. If Sony truly has smartened up and they realize that fans just aren't having this and they don't know what the fans want, but Marvel Studios does, and they're going to shift their focus on things that are working, which right now is only Spider-Man in the MCU for them, then I think they're going to realize that this is the way to go. And they might license the rights to all of these other characters to Marvel Studios to be able to use at their own discretion, meaning we could get some of these characters in the MCU without having them be required to be in a Spider-Man movie. However, at the same time, I do believe if Kevin Feige gets the rights to these characters, licensed rights, not full ownership rights by Marvel Studios, he'll know what to do. And he won't make a mistake like Sony made, putting major Spider-Man villains in movies without Spider-Man. This really would just be a win-win for everybody. Sony wouldn't have to worry about actually making the films, they just put the characters in the films and they collect money. Marvel Studios now has freedom to use all the Spider-Man characters that they want. And according to this new report in this article, that's what Sony is actually going to focus on. One section reads, "The future is all about Spidey." For Sony, the future appears to lie in projects more directly connected to Spider-Man himself. They've developed what they want to develop for now, a top talent agent told The Wrap. It's really about the next Spider-Man film. According to a second Sony insider, the studio is now focusing its efforts on Holland's highly anticipated fourth Spider-Man film, the next installment in the acclaimed Spider-Verse animated film series with Beyond the Spider-Verse, and a Spider-Man noir television series featuring Nicolas Cage. Projects that lean into, rather than away from, the web slinger's central appeal. And the article basically ends with the fact that Sony kind of realizes now that they attempted to build a universe around Spider-Man without him in it, which was inherently flawed from the beginning. And it 100% was. Just to be completely blunt and brutal, it was a stupid idea to begin with. Venom being an exception because of how charming Tom Hardy was and because of how much he cared. But Madam Web and Morbius and Kraven the Hunter without Spider-Man, not too good. And in fact, most of the reactions for Kraven the Hunter haven't been that good. What's really interesting is they praise Aaron Taylor Johnson, in which, yes, I assumed he was going to be pretty dang good. And apparently there are some really good action scenes in the movie, but everything else, according to many different reviews, sucks. Chris Parker from 3C Film says Kraven the Hunter is fun when Johnson is in action causing bloody chaos, but everything else is a drag. Great cast held back by clunky, dull dialogue. Another instance of a villain turned hero, a story that lacks any intrigue. Rhino and Chameleon wasted, overall a disappointment. Another one from Junior Felix says, I really wanted to love Kraven the Hunter, but the awful first act, bad CGI, and even worse dialogue ruined it. The best things about the film are Aaron's performance and the bloody action sequences, but that wasn't enough. These characters deserved better. Then, Ken Murray says, saw Kraven the Hunter tonight, and why do CGI animals in 2024 look worse than the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park from 30 years ago? From over 30 years ago. CGI blockbusters need to make changes because somehow they are looking more and more unrealistic. Leo Rydell says, so Kraven the Hunter, a big old bucket of nah. While I like the action, it cut away from it so quick, one didn't get to enjoy it. Awful acting, terrible script, and a waste of Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I actually enjoyed in the role. Way too quick, not a great story. Farewell. Yeah, basically just kind of seems like a typical Sony Spider-Man adjacent film. And it sounds like Kraven was actually the best part of this. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven. But it sounds like from all the reviews that I've read, they just don't give him enough time, which is crazy because he is the main star. And if they do give him some time in the movie that's not full of action, it's not very well because let's face it, Sony doesn't know how to write scripts. The people that they've hired to do their Spider-Man stories haven't really done a good job. The stories are terrible most of the time, and it sounds like Kraven is no exception. But the good news is Sony finally realizes it's not working, and Kraven is their kind of final performance, and they're going to take a bow after this, although they really shouldn't. They more along the line should kind of apologize to everybody, and they should just let Marvel now use the rights to all of the Spider-Man characters, which I think is a new deal that is about to happen. And now their focus is shifted on making the next Spider-Man movie a great movie, but Marvel Studios is at the helm of that, so they shouldn't really have to worry too much about that. All they really need to do is just kind of stay out of the way. So let's hope that happens. But for now, it looks like the Sony Spider-Man Universe is done. Hopefully now they can give the rights to these characters to Marvel, and the future for Spider-Man and the Spider-Man characters can be really bright. If we hear anything else about this, we will be sure to do an update video to let you all know. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest Spider-Man news. And of course, please let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.